Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Tips and Tidbits. I'm your host, Katie Phillips, and I am so delighted that you are joining me this morning. So thank you so much for that. I hope you find it helpful. So the question that we are looking at today is how to fix the sagging middle of your novel. So this is a super common problem when it comes to novels, and I think a big part of that is if you're not sort of familiar with how to properly structure your novel. And so I'll talk more about that in another episode. But I think the main thing to remember here is to keep that tension escalating. A lot of times if you find that the middle of your book is kind of feeling slow or boring or just kind of feels like a slog to get through, probably the biggest number one problem is that there's not enough tension and that there's not enough conflict. So ideally you want every decision that your character makes to be further complicated by more obstacles and to become consistently and incrementally more difficult. Because this will lead up to your climax. So another thing that you can do in the middle of your book to create more tension is to add kind of side plots or have your character make decisions that are designed to help them reach their goal, but actually complicate it or make it more difficult. So it's always great when your character can try and solve the problem and that end up making the problem worse. The other element here is if you have certain things that you need to set up for your climax, like they need to get sort of a piece of a puzzle, or they need to meet someone who's going to be important later in the story, this is a great time to introduce them. And to go back and to look at how can I make this more complex? How can I cut out scenes that are going to be boring? Maybe they're travel scenes or ones where there's lots of exposition, things like that. So cut as much as possible, be concise as much as possible, and then make sure that you're really ramping up the tension on every page and every scene. You're adding to that conflict, whether it's, if they're traveling, maybe it's weather or, their vehicle breaks down or whatever it is. If it's a situation where they're looking for some piece of the puzzle that will help them reach their goal, or they need to find this person who's going to be able to help them, make that as difficult as possible and have the solution to one problem create even more problems down the line. So those are just a few quick ways that you can kind of inject some new life into the middle of your novel. The temptation is for the middle to kind of wander on and to be repetitious or things like that. So just be ruthless in your cutting and your editing, and make sure that you're ramping up that tension on every page. So there's your tip and tidbit for today. I hope that was helpful, and I will talk to you next Wednesday.